Hi everyone, bonjour mesdames, messieurs, 大家好, and welcome to Frenchie Teaches Cocktails. Last time we introduced an old-fashioned, the proto cocktail, the iconic water, spirit, bitter, and sugar. This time we're going to introduce its little brother called the Manhattan. It is New York City's most iconic drink. The exact origin of the drink is up for debate. There is at least two different versions of the story, but it does originate from Manhattan, New York, sometimes during the second half of the 19th century, 1860, 1870, around there. And it is a fantastic drink. It calls for 2-part American whiskey to 1-part Italian vermouth. It's almost as simple as that. Let's get into it. As an old-fashioned, a Manhattan is made with spirit, water, bitter, and sugar. But this time, the sweetener is Italian sweet vermouth, and it is a distinct layer of the drink. It is a fortified white wine infused with botanicals, and it is going to provide a new layer to the drink, a lot of depth. For our spirit, we're going to use our bourbon again. Usually in a Manhattan, I would prefer rye. Rye is a bit more spicy, it has an edge, and it stands up to the mixing better than most bourbon. But in this case, this is a slightly overproof bourbon, and it will have no problem to shine in our drink. Once again, we're gonna go for Angostura bitter, the most iconic bitter there is, and they're gonna provide that lush dash of seasoning inside the drink. And finally, no Manhattan is complete without a cherry as a garnish. We are not going to use these translucent cherries. They are atrocious and they belong to the 70s. There is a few commercial brands that are available and that are quite good, like Luxardo Maraschino, and I believe there is a Buffalo Trace brand as well of cherry cocktail. So here I made my home. Fresh cherries that I confit myself into bourbon with a little bit of spice. You can see the video right here. As usual, you don't need any fancy equipment to make a Manhattan cocktail. You could perfectly get away with a pint glass, any kind is fine, a chopstick as your stirring stick, and whatever you can find to strain the ice as you are pouring your Manhattan. However, today I'm going to introduce a new tool. This is a Japanese Yarai. It's a mixing glass, just a fancy stirring vessel. As for glassware, a Manhattan is a drink that is served up, which means it's not served on ice. So, the adequate glassware would be a coupe or a champagne saucer. Little funny fact about it. It might be more a legend than truth, but they say that a champagne coupe was actually modeled after Marie Antoinette's left breast. Yes, left breast is specified, and for those who don't know, Marie Antoinette was France's last queen, the wife of Louis XVI. They got beheaded. So, let's proceed. I'm gonna go with 45 ml of bourbon right here on the dot. We're gonna add to that 3/4 ounce or 22.5 ml, so it's a 2-to-1 ratio of Italian sweet vermouth. To that, for good luck, I'm gonna add a bar spoon of cherry juice. Well, the cherry liqueur that we just made. And we're gonna put 1 cherry as our garnish. To season, 2 dash of Angostura. And now we're gonna ice. Don't be cheap on the ice. As long as your ice is not too wet, you are not gonna over dilute. Once your drink reach -5 degrees Celsius, it's just gonna stop melting. So don't hesitate, add ample amount of ice. Always a little bit more than you think you need. We're gonna stir to dilution. And this drink is served up, which means there is no ice on it. Here we need to learn how to pinpoint our dilution perfectly. And for that there is no secret. Taste, taste, and taste again. I'm just gonna use a straw to look for my dilution. You'll see bartender as well putting a drop like that on the back of their hand and licking it to check the dilution. What I'm looking for here, at the beginning the drink is overly sweet. The sweetness is up front. But as I'm diluting it, that sweetness recedes and starts to go in the back. And there is that perfect point where the spirit comes up front and the sweetness stays at the back. And I'm getting there. Hopla! I'm gonna use my julep strainer, put it inside my glass, pour right over my cherry. To the last drop. Alright, now the finishing touch. As any stirred cocktail, we need a nose. And once again, it comes in the form of orange oils. Same incision up top, drag all the way down, rub it, spray it over your Manhattan. Et voila! We don't need the peel, we already have a garnish. One is plenty. As you try the drink, the first thing that hits you is the orange oil on the nose, the aroma. First sip, you get right into the bourbon, the spirit here. But that is immediately smoothed out by the sweet vermouth with a hint of bitterness and a hint of spice. This is a classic drink for a reason. It has that addictive taste of come again. Think of it this way. If an old-fashioned was about cooking a steak to perfection and just seasoning it with the right amount of salt and pepper, an old-fashioned is more like cooking a steak and making a sauce that complements it and deepens its flavor greatly. And here, in a classic Manhattan, that's exactly what that Italian sweet vermouth does to that American whiskey. It complements the woodiness of the spirit, provide a hint of fruitiness from the wine, a complexity of botanicals, and in my case, a hint of spice from my cherries. However, once again, think of a Manhattan as a category of drinks, where it's defined by a ratio of about 2 parts spirit for 1 part liqueur. You just have to match the right liqueur to the right spirit, add an aroma, usually in the form of citrus oil. Hey darling, come here, say hello. And just season it with a couple of dash of bitters. No. A Manhattan is the perfect cocktail. It still respects the spirit. We are just here to complement it by adding that lovely layer of sweetness. It allows us to bring complexity to the drink. And that vermouth, Italian vermouth, and that American whiskey is a match made in heaven. Those two were meant to go together. And that's why a Manhattan is such a classic cocktail. It respects the spirit, but at the same time, is still very gourmand. So guys, this was episode 2 of Frenchie Teaches Cocktails. We went over the old-fashioned, we went over a Manhattan. Next time we are gonna go into bartender's favorite cocktail, at least to drink, a Negroni, and it has a fantastic history. So don't miss out. You know what to do. You gotta hit. It's gonna pop up on the street, the subscribe button, so you can see me again doing my next cocktail. Bye bye guys. 再见. See you next time. Au revoir.